As a fan of video games, we have come accustomed to game cancellations. Games that you or I may have thought were going to come out at some point, but just disappear never will do, obviously. The game studio this pertains to for this episode is Bethesda Software, one of the biggest third-party studios I can comfortably say ever, probably, most likely. I mean, why wouldn't they? They have some of the highest regarded games of all time. We all know about them. I don't need to explain stuff they've done or why they're probably one of the biggest ones, obviously. But what you may not know about them is they did have a new IP out in 2014 that no one really seems to remember called Battlecry. I mean, it's understandably why no one remembers this game, and hopefully this video will show you why no one remembers it, because it's a pretty forgettable game, but I still find it to be kind of interesting about how it just swept under the rug. This IP that I am explaining right now is Battlecry. It was announced in 2014. It was set to release in 2015 the following year. For those of you who already don't know what Battlecry is, it was a third-person hero shooter compared to TF2 at 300. So that should give you pretty much just a gory hero shooter, pretty much, is what they're getting out of this game. The game is being done by a brand new studio for Bethesda Studios in Austin, Texas, called Battlecry Studios, which was a subsidiary of ZeniMax Media, with the person heading the studio being longtime industry professional Rick Vogel, who previously worked on massively successful online games such as Ultima Online, Star Wars Galaxy, and was executive producer of The Old Republic, which if you're doing a free-to-play online game, that's a pretty good track record, because those are some pretty loved online games for the most part, except Old Republic, I can't really tell. The first time the public ever really heard about this game was on May 28, 2014, when the announcement trailer came out. This announcement trailer wasn't a gameplay trailer or anything, it was just a cinematic trailer, just giving you an outline of the story, which pretty much the story was just, in a nutshell, a world where gunpowder is outlawed. It pits a team representing different countries against each other in an enclosed war zone where international disputes are now resolved. Victory in the war zone translate into progression in a larger worldwide battle for supremacy being fought between the factions. At the time, the three factions to choose from were the Red Royal Marines and the Yellow Cossack Empire, and the third was planned to be announced at a later date but never was. Therefore, overall pretty good setup for a steampunk looking hero shooter in my opinion. This trailer also showed off what we could expect for some of the classes to play like, with a more heavy emphasis, it seemed like, on melee combat over shooting, since the only known shooting class were a futuristic crossbow and a longbow. Some of these classes being a thief, brawler, and a bowman. Something they also really wanted to emphasize with the game was the large-scale battle modes that at the time were offering 16v16 matches, which for a hero shooter sounds kind of interesting, since the only big hero shooter for the time would have been TF2, and to my knowledge didn't offer any modes to that size. With the announcement trailer came overall impressions from select journalists that got to try out the game. Overall, impressions weren't actually that bad. Within the demo they played, only 3 out of the 5 confirmed playable classes were playable. Some outlets saying even though most encounters they experienced boiled down to just hacking away with your melee and arrow attacks, they did say did hold some promise, with an interesting mechanic being how there was no real healing class. Therefore, you gain health back through getting kills and using a adrenaline skill that heals and gives you a brief invincibility buff. Another thing highlighted was the speed, which was compared to be a bit slower than the Scout in TF2. Therefore, at the time in its early state, did hold a bit of a promise that people were kind of intrigued by. After this announcement, there was a vast time of silence from the game. The next time we would ever even hear about this game wouldn't be until October 30th of 2014, when the first gameplay was actually shown to the public, and overall it did not go as well as the impressions did. While people did seem to like the art style and overall theme of the game, people kept saying that overall gameplay animation looked extremely janky and just overall just bad in general. Another new problem at the time for this game was the comparison to another similar type of game called Battleborn. Also a hero shooter, but taking a more MOBA approach to its gameplay. These two similar names I feel really did put a big red flag on this game, with people who kept thinking this game was actually just Battleborn, which honestly, in this video I've done so far, I'm like halfway through it right now. It's looking at my script, I've written Battleborn like 4 times. I had to reread certain parts of this because I just keep calling Battlecry Battleborn because it's just that similar of a game, which I do feel like really did hamper this game down in the long run. The next time this game showed up was at E3 2015, at the Bethesda E3 press conference, with a short little trailer showing a bit more gameplay and telling people to sign up for the beta. This trailer ended up being a pretty big dud, since most of the conference was meant to showcase Fallout 4 and Doom, 2 juggernauts in the game industry obviously, so pinning a game that no one really cared about before in between them just wasn't going to help out the game. Therefore, having Battleborn get a little 2-minute trailer advertising a beta and showing one new class to Enforcer was not a good sign, especially if this game was supposed to come out in 2015. This trailer really gave off the impression that this wasn't up to snuff with the other Bethesda games at the time. The next time we heard about this game was, again, for another long period of time. We didn't hear about this game again from Bethesda until October 15th, 2015. At this point, the previously announced beta still hadn't come out yet. The next time we ever heard about this game was on October 15th, 2015. At this point, the previously announced beta still hadn't come out yet. And the statement that was released by Bethesda was pretty much the final nail in the coffin for this game. What this note pretty much read was that Bethesda was having concerns about Battlecry and if it would meet its objectives. With the company statement reading, "We are evaluating what improvements need to be done to the game to meet our quality standards. The studio remains busy during this process on multiple projects," which we'll come back to that statement later. With Battlecry Studios' attention now being shifted away from the game, it's safe to say at this point was dead. Now with the cancellation seemingly of Battlecry, not all was actually lost for Battlecry Studios, since as of recently as March 9th of this year, the studio has been, and pretty much the eye of every Bethesda fan and in general gaming fan of current, since of March 9th, the name of the studio has now been changed to Bethesda Game Studios Austin, the same studio working on the currently highly anticipated multiplayer game Fallout 76. Going from Battlecry to Fallout 76 is a pretty good trade-off, I'd say, from a game that probably would have been not loved since it was a free-to-play game with microtransactions to a game that is multiplayer Fallout, which everyone wants forever, pretty much it seems like. I'd say it's a pretty good trade-off. Personally, what I feel brought this game to cancellation was Overwatch, to be honest. It's a pretty easy answer to say that this game brought it down, but in hindsight I feel like Overwatch did have a big hamper on Bethesda that just brought it down. The reason being is Overwatch at the time when it was announced, 6 months after this game was announced, also, which I'm pretty sure was also playable to attendees at BlizzCon 2014, was being praised just how amazing and fast it felt, how not janky, the animations were, and just all the, it's a pretty memorable game. You remember the characters in that game, which with Battlecry, it was complete just opposite. Also, another even bigger reason I feel like this game got canceled was the terrible ad campaign that was Battleborn, with a similar name, which I once again will bring up. I have said Battleborn multiple times, I'm trying to say Battlecry, and I have to keep redoing parts of this. It's really annoying, and I hate you, Battlecry and Battleborn. Just remember that. But the similar names really didn't help the struggling game that was Battlecry already, which was already a pretty forgettable game. Well, that's the forgotten and canceled Bethesda game Battlecry. Hope you guys enjoyed this. It's my first time ever doing a video like this where I have to actually write something and read it off a script. I know it's pretty rough, I'm not gonna lie. Just filming this right now and speaking this part right now, I can already tell you this is gonna be a very rough video to watch, but I enjoyed doing this. I hope this turns out well. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Give me some good pointers or something. Constructive criticism maybe, I don't know. This was fun. I have a few more ideas for stuff I can do videos on like this, but if you have any you'd like to recommend, I'd like to do maybe some trading card games or some more video games. Obviously I have a few ideas for some video games and some trading card games, but let me know down below if you have any suggestions. Remember to like and subscribe, comment down below. See you next time with a video that's not like this probably. Catch ya.